Let's review the traditional candle. Traditional candles work on a principle of capillary action, which means as wax evaporates from the tip of the wick, it allows more wax to be absorbed into the wick. The narrow diameter of the wick allows the wax in the wick to be evaporated without having to heat the whole mass of the wax. As the wax vapor burns, it heats the wax by radiation and also by conduction through the wick. You can see the wax swirl around as it expands, touching the hot wick, and then spreads out, cools down, and then sinks back down to the bottom of the candle, which provides more liquid wax to perpetuate combustion. In this demonstration, I've heated a tea light candle to vapor temperature to show that it is actually the wax vapor that burns and not the wick. As the wax cools down, it is no longer able to produce enough vapor to sustain combustion. Now, if only there was some way that we could capture the heat from the burning wax and use it to melt more wax, and thus perpetuate the combustion. Now I'm going to show you how to make a candle based on conduction. What you will need is copper tubing, a tea light candle, lineman's pliers, a soda can, or in this case V8 because we're trying to be healthy, and a hacksaw. And don't forget your safety goggles. Safety first. The first thing we'll do is cut off about 8 or so inches of copper tubing and bend it over in a U shape. Then bend it back so that way it will stay up straight. Once you've got it to stand up straight, then take your aluminum can and cut both ends off. This is going to form the chimney. Make sure you're careful with the edges of the aluminum can because they're very sharp. Now carefully fold the can so that way it will rest on top of the tea light candle. Then take out the pull on the wick and pull the wax out of the tea light candle cup and remove the wick, replacing the wax back into the cup again. Now we're ready to try it. This time we heat the wax just as before, but also we heat the copper up. So that way it doesn't cool down the wax too much once we put it in. Then carefully using tweezers to place the copper in the melted wax, we continue heating it until it begins to boil. Once the wax starts boiling and vaporizing, then we can add the chimney carefully with the tweezers. Now that the copper has reached critical temperature, it can continue boiling the wax to make more wax vapor, which then continues to boil more wax. If you look carefully, you can actually see the wax bubbles boiling up as the copper heats the wax. That's getting pretty hot. We should back up. As you can see, it didn't take very long at all for it to completely burn the wax out. Since that didn't last very long, we're going to try something a little bit bigger. I've melted an old Christmas candle into a gallon can. Then I've made a similar version of the conduction candle with using a tin can and some balsa wood floats. I honestly don't know if this is going to float without lighting on fire. Well, now the conduction candle's definitely working, but it's not apparently working unassisted. I don't think I have a sustainable reaction because it's not getting enough heat from the conduction candle out to the main wax in the can. But since my balsa wood float has now become on fire, it looks like it's going to continue melting the wax. As we can see in there, the wax is definitely boiling. I'm just not sure that it's getting a fresh supply of wax in there to continue burning. Upon further investigation, it does appear that the primary source of heat is coming from the conduction candle, and the burning balsa wood is only a small part of it, as when I lift the can up, the flames go down and it clearly is getting much cooler. Since this is apparently a success, I think I'm going to try blowing it out now. No good. Well, that was dumb. Now that I went and used the bloody fire extinguisher on it, my candle's a big mess.